Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back. Right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay? So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now, let's get to the episode. Good, man. Hey, folks, John Kelly, welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Sitting down with Giovanni Rocco. He is the author of Giovanni's Ring, My Life Inside the Real Sopranos. But like that's the book is awesome. Like, pick it up, you'll enjoy it. It'll give you some insight into a world that you think you might know about because of the movies. But I got to tell you, man, sitting down and spending some time with this book, it kind of redefines some things, and not in the way that you think. A lot of life lessons, and we get to sit down with Giovanni today, and he's going to talk about his life and time working undercover, and then I would say more importantly, the second chapter and what he's doing now, and how he's paying it forward and giving back to this first responder community, learning from the pain. And so without further ado, man, just a fucking awesome guy, man. Giovanni, brother, it is finally, right? This is like Christmas. Christmas came early for John Kelly.
For me as well, John. Thanks for having me, brother. Thanks for everybody listening.
Yeah, man, you listen. For those of you that of the listeners, and I'm sure there's quite a few that haven't had the pleasure, man. Giovanni's the kind of guy that you meet and you're just instantly drawn to, because he's such a good egg, man. He's such a good guy, and it's like not a moth to a flame, man, because a moth ends up burning, man. But you're just such good people, and we met back at a conference over a year ago, and helping first responders in this second chapter. But I want to, if it's cool with you, man, I want to go back even to the early days, because I think so much of our upbringing that makes us who we are. It kind of defines for us what we care about. And with you, man, I'm reading and I'm laughing about your upbringing, and I grew up in the Northeast as well. It's all the same nonsense, man. Just different corner stores, and but the same knuckleheads. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and how that shaped some of the things, and then I want to, if you don't mind, man, your dad played a kind of a big role in how your viewpoints were as a man growing up and all that. If you don't mind, man, let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, real quick, John. I mean, my upbringing was in Hudson County, New Jersey. For those listening that don't know, I describe it as very Brooklyn-esque. It's just outside of Manhattan. It's a stone's throw from Midtown, Jersey City, Bayonne, Hoboken, that whole makeup. I think it's that hub where everybody came into the country back in the when everybody migrated here through Ellis Island. A lot of people I describe in the book, they just stayed in that immediate area. So I'm blessed to be raised the way I was, in the area I was, the neighborhood, the different cultures that raised me. It wasn't just an Irish, a German, a Polish, Italian culture that raised me. It was a mix of people. It was truly a melting pot. And from each of those, I gleaned something, right? But the common denominator was community, family, and the importance of keeping each other safe, and respect. Respect was everything when I grew up, right? And you grew up hard. I mean, even the gangsters, the cops, I'm third generation cop. I was raised by police officers. Obviously, I wanted to be one since a young age, but I never thought I aspired to be, but I didn't think I could do it. You know, I was a poor student. I was a street kid, you know, because of my relationship. You brought it up, because of my relationship with my father. It was a very tense one. And he was a cop with a lot of trauma, and, you know, didn't have a father figure himself. It all added to it. But because of my defiance of authority and my reason to want to hang out with street people, gangsters, family of gangsters, just be around different people, it was all anti-authority. That was my thing. So yeah, growing up, it was, but the one thing, the common denominator, like I said, was respect. And that helped me in all my undercover work, you know, from buying on a street corner to rolling up in, you know, into a house with a penthouse, or dealing with, you pick it, criminal organizations, Asian organized crime, Russian organized crime. As long as you walked in like a gentleman, feeling respected, you were golden, right?
Right. That
So,
was
and
that laid the foundation for your, I want to say success, bro. You know, I can't blow smoke. I mean, this is the work that you did. And it got recognized pretty early on in your police career. There was a story in the book about you pulling up to work riding a motorcycle with a you know, half a uniform on, and you know, the chief was like, "The fuck are you doing?" Right?
he was. But I write about it because I wanted it to inspire kids that grew up the way I did. I come from a good family. I come from an extremely loving family. You know, my family loves hard. We fight hard, right? But we make up hard too. So it's everything that happened to me that added to what I became. I shouldn't live past the age of 25. I should have been dead or in jail, to be honest with you. And it's not proud moments that I write about. It's embarrassing sometimes to know that my children one day, or my grandchildren one day, will read that book and know that about me. But I need to share those dark things, because those kids who grew up like me in the street, or maybe like yourself, the streets raised me in a way. And I wanted people to know, just because you were born into a certain environment, that's what my parents taught me. You could rise out of the ashes. You could become something. You just have to have the burning desire to want it and go get it. And that's how I was. I didn't listen. Because of my defiance of authority, I carried that into my job as well. If you told me, no, I can't go to a certain squad, no, I can't go to a certain shift, you have just now set the course in motion for a battle.
Watch me.
I'm going to
Watch
battle.
me.
Right, right. So, you know, I was just blessed that I had a little bit of oversight from the old man. But my father said to me, when you take this job, you know, he helped me get the job, and he vouched for me.
Right.
Of course, the chief knew me, you know, since I was a little kid, being third generation in that county. They all vouched for me. But he said to me, listen, you're on your own. From this point on, you get that shield. You want a gold shield. You want to aspire to be a supervisor or whatnot through your career. Don't come to me. You cashed all. He said the same thing to my brother. You cashed all your chips in, you know, but also carry yourself away in the street that you represent my name and my family name.
Yeah.
So when you handcuff somebody, you keep your hands to yourself. You treat somebody with respect. You treat somebody the way you want to be treated yourself. So it all carried into my law enforcement career, which also carried into my undercover career.
Right. Dude, isn't that the thing, right? Like, I'll get you the job. It's yours, but it's yours to lose now, man. It's on you. It's on you on from this point forward on how you carry yourself and what you make of yourself.
Oh yeah, and I embarrassed myself along the way. You know, a hungry young cop wanting to be, you know, wanting to aspire to be just like my friends and my family and the people I knew that came before me. I made lots of mistakes, tons of mistakes, you know, but it's the ability to learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely.
You know?
That, and it's having that right heart, right? That the right makeup in that heart of why you're trying to do what you're trying to do. I think I don't know, man. We might be getting away from that a little bit. I think we got to dial some things back in with our people.
Well, empathy is everything, right?
Yeah, right.
Empathy in a culture and understanding somebody. See, I know what it's like to be in low income housing and be raised, because that's where my family's from.
Right.
My mother and father struggled to pull me out of that. But I also work with cops that were never exposed to that, and they look down on people because they were poor. They look down.
Yeah.
So who's really deregulated? It's the people that
Yeah.
you're showing up to help, or is it you
Right.
as a law enforcement professional or a first responder in general, just coming in and
Right.
not having, listen, I know what it's like. My mother kept a clean house. My father provided for us. We always did better each year that went along. But there's families that I knew that didn't have squat, that they died. They, young kids that I was friends with that died of overdoses at young ages. And I
Yeah.
also knew the other side, kids with too much money. I
Right.
lived somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that ability to want to pull yourself out of it and make
Yeah.
something from it. But you have to have empathy when it comes to law enforcement,
Right.
especially law enforcement. You
Dude,
can't
I
just show
remember
up.
getting out of the car. First words out of my mouth. It didn't matter who I was rolling up on or where it was. What's going on, fellas? How we doing?
Mhm. Yep.
Not it didn't matter what was going on, who had guns, who was blood. What's going on, fellas?
Right.
Why am I here? How can I help? And
Yeah.
then you either got fuck you, motherfucker. Oh, okay, all right. Well, now now I know how we're gonna dance. Or you completely caught everybody off guard, and they were like, "Oh man, hey, blah blah." It
Yep.
just treating people like humans, man. Right?
Oh, without a doubt. When I got my gold shield and I started working in the same areas that my old man had worked in previously, I could see it. The OGs, the old guys. I'm talking like 60, 70-year-old guys in the streets that were just getting out of prison or had been, career criminals.
Sure.
They look at my name tag and they go, wait a minute, you Lenny's kid? You Lenny's boy? Oh, you're Lenny's boy. And the whole dynamic changed. They would wait and see how I presented myself in the street. Now, to your point, I will treat you with respect.
Right.
But if you're newly paroled or you just got out, your badass is coming back to the street after 15 years. And you gotta understand, I come from an area where there's a lot of cop fighters. We battled for our lives. I've been sewn back together in some of the fights.
Right.
But some of these guys had no respect for authority.
Right.
So you had to make it known. When you see my blue Thunderbird pull up, I had a two-door Thunderbird with my partner Timmy. If you saw that car pull up, man, whatever's going on better cease to exist. You better calm down. You better step off. And it's not that I'm going to beat you or anything like that. But if you want my respect, I'll show you respect, but you got to give
Two-way
it back.
street. Two-way street.
And that's what I learned in the neighborhood growing up. Right. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah.
You made a few mistakes along the way, like we all do, man. But eventually somebody picked up on that ability of yours, man, just to be able to interact with people. Even, people of, people in the criminal element, so to speak. And some opportunities opened up for you to start doing some, at least initially locally, right? Some small time UC work.
It was small time. So the guys my old squad in narcotics, the guys that raised me in the world of police, they raised me the right way. Okay. They taught me the way to work informants, but I also taught them some things, right? I taught them, some of the guys, not all the guys, but I learned from the guys that came before me and I tweak it. When you learn something, you make it yours and then you make it a little bit better if you can. So with informants, again, like I said, I come from the streets. My friends died, overdose, whatever. I saw a lot of stuff before I was even 17 years old. My friends were moving dope. I mean,
Right.
And I walked away from them, my best
Right.
friends in second grade. And I picked a side. Once I picked the side I was going to be on, that was it. But when it came to narcotics, when I arrested you and you were dope sick, or you really didn't want to go back to jail, or you couldn't change your life and you were crying on my shoulder, hey, G, I can't go back to, I don't want to go back to county. I don't want to go back to prison. I just got to get a bed. I can't get a bed to get clean. I'm dope sick. So I would say to you, all right, John, are you serious? If I got you a bed right now, would you go? Because again, I saw my friends in you.
Sure.
So I would go that extra mile while I'm processing and typing. And I had old salty guys go, what are you doing?
Right.
Let's just put this piece of shit in jail, go out. It's collars for dollars. Let's go get another one. And I used to say, well, you guys go,
Right.
And then the older guys would say to me, hey, man, you're doing the right thing. Help that girl guy out,
Right.
And then it paid tenfold because, and I didn't do it to be manipulative. Well, got him a bed. I cashed in my chips. I learned the system, got you clean for a week or a month or whatever it was. And you felt you wanted to pay me back. So you would call me up and say, hey, G, I got a load of, I just heard a bunch of PCPs coming in from New York.
Right.
We worked the PCP capital of the country at the time.
Right.
And they would give me dope tips and they'd be great informants for me. So again, you see how it pays dividends, right?
Right. And it just being, just treating people, like you said, treat them with respect. That's a
Yeah,
two-way street, man. And people remember that.
yeah, sure they do. And again,
Remember
you and
that.
I are the kind of people where I probably took on a little too much than I should have. Some of these people became friends of mine, right? Like
Right.
not, but I looked out for them, and they were at their last days on earth. I've had informants ask me to be their godfathers to their kids,
Yeah.
their best man at their wedding. Of course, I couldn't do it, right?
Right,
Conflict.
right, right.
But then I would get called, like towards the end of my career, I was getting phone calls from like hospitals in Jersey City and old folks homes and whatnot. They had nothing to leave me, but they were leaving my name as the contact for their last will and testament.
Dude.
Yeah, so they had nothing to give, right?
Right.
But it was almost property. Hey, Sandy's clothes are here. All her clothes
Right.
and her pads and her drawings are here. We're going to throw them out, but your name is on a contact for the hospital. Would you like them? What am I going to do? You
Yeah.
know?
Dude,
So,
there's a measure, I think, of our time here, right? And
mhm.
it's not in monetary, it's not in shit, it's not in things that we acquire. It's completely, I think, measured by the impact we have on in people's lives.
Yeah,
And that's, dude, that's a testament to, the impact that you had on their lives, right?
sure. Yeah. The idea is not to ruin it. The goal in our world is not to ruin people's lives and put them in jail, right? It's not cops and robbers from when we're
No,
kids. You
man.
don't grab somebody and
No.
stick them in a cell. It's to try to help the community and make it a better community. Sometimes, listen, some people don't get it. And now that I'm working the addiction, I really understand now. I work in the field of addiction and I understand not everybody gets it the first time. Not everybody gets sober. It could
Right.
take somebody 6 or 7 times to be in treatment
Yeah.
before they get it,
And
right.
just because you have an addiction doesn't mean you're a piece of shit.
No, because I had an addiction. I had plenty of addictions when growing up, right? My
Yeah.
biggest addiction, and I appreciate the kudos for the undercover work, but that was my
That was an
adrenaline.
addiction. Yeah,
My adrenaline was an
you
addiction.
jumped ahead of me there with my
Yeah,
notes, brother.
yeah.
You're fucking
All right.
fast tracked it.
Just kick me back
Yeah,
into the ring.
yeah, man. I think, listen, the guy that runs ultra marathon is an addict,
Yes.
right? I mean, everybody's got something, man, and it's just hopefully you can turn whatever it is that you're addicted to into something that doesn't hurt you or people that you love,
Yeah. Yeah. And
right?
I suffered from a long time. I suffered from approval. I wanted people's approvals. So my relationship suffered, my marriages suffered because I wanted approval. Here are people approving me, people love me, but I needed that outside verification from somebody else that I was a good person, right?
Yeah.
You're just telling me because you love me or you're with me or you have to
Right.
put up with me, right? You're my blood family. I wanted that outside. So some guys, girls too, they seek that outside attention outside their marriages or,
Sure.
because you're wearing that uniform, people look at you a certain way. That could be addicting. That could change your whole
Right.
makeup, you know? So, yeah.
So you make it through, you do some work locally, and your efforts get recognized by our federal partners. They're like, hey, this guy's got a knack, man, but we got to clean him up a little bit, right? We got to give him some formal training. You tell that story in the book about like they put you in a scenario, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. In the FBI school.
yeah, in the FBI school.
Yeah, yeah. The FBI, they gave me a hard time. They thought I was giving away tradecraft. I had to fight tooth and nail with my attorneys to get that story in the book. Um, yeah, that's the one where I went into the school. So by the time I got trained by the Bureau, I had a decade of undercover work under my belt at every level.
And
But
not real,
now,
no formal training, really, right? This was just
uh,
you being fucking you.
me being the idiot that I was, really, you know. But again, surviving amongst these people, swimming in the shark infested waters that I eventually was in every day. Um, I loved it. I basked in it, right? I would
Yeah.
bathe in that water with sharks every day if I could, 24 hours. I just loved it. So I had a good understanding. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. One of them being, I called some bloods a racist name because I thought it would give me bonus fetus in the street. It didn't pan out well for me.
No,
You
not
know,
so much, huh?
no, no, no. They gave me a very violent escort back to my Mustang, and they put me in there in the streets of Newark. So,
What? I thought we
hey,
were,
wait,
come on.
yeah, yeah. And it didn't end well for me. So things
No.
like that, I made mistakes. So it got to the point in my career where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not worried about getting myself hurt. I've been sewn back together, stabbed by needles. I've been stabbed by So, perps. But when it came to me teaching these younger guys under me now, I couldn't teach you undercover working and retire. I have no formal education or training
Right.
myself. Now I'm going to teach you how to do things in the street that I would do. Like I literally, for the first 15 years of my career, maybe less, I gambled with my life daily. I didn't care. I
Yeah.
mean, when I tell you I gambled, I put myself in situations where you couldn't get away with it today.
Gee, I was reading in the, I'm going to myself, I mean, from the time on the bridge in the
Yeah,
truck, from a fucking wire hanging out
yeah,
underneath your shirt. I'm
yeah.
just to fucking guys, to people that you've been um having relationships with in this underworld, having nightmares about you. Uh,
Right.
there's just at every turn, man. I don't know. I don't think people can appreciate what it's like to live a life where, at a moment's notice, man, just because
Right.
somebody fucking woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you cease to exist.
Yeah, just paranoia. And at least he voiced it to me. Like he left me a voicemail saying, "Listen,
Yeah.
I don't trust you. Don't call me back anymore." And um, but when they don't say that to you, that's the thing. When they start
Oh,
looking at, now I look at you and I go in a meeting. Why is he looking at? Now I'm thinking about you. Why? Because you're in a bad mood that day. And
right,
I'm thinking to myself, did I say something? Did I do something? Why is John looking at me like that? He usually smiles at me. He's not smiling. There's a sense of paranoia, and your
right.
cortisol starts pumping, and you have to control your breathing and your heart rate. And you really do, because if you start getting nervous, and you know how it is, and
Of
you get your
course.
emotions on, your veins start pulsing with blood pumping through them, and you look at you change colors. You have to control all that.
Right,
You know? But you're putting yourself purposely around murderers, around people who are violent, people who torture people. I've worked with organizations that the one operation I came into was to save another undercover. They called two of us in because they heard on an open mic that they were going to torture the undercover. And what they do is they put electricity onto a spring of a bed. They take all the mattress, the
yep,
materials off, and they electrocute you. They strap you down onto the spring of the mattress, and they will torture him to find out if he was an undercover or a rat.
right,
Because in my world, I'd rather be seen as a cop than a rat. But it depends on the organization you're with.
yeah,
Some organizations don't like cops, and they have no qualm about killing a cop. They don't care.
right,
At least with the mob, I knew going in what I learned as a kid. They don't want that kind of attention.
right.
Yeah.
That's they kill a cop. That's bringing,
Yeah.
that's not dissuading anybody from further
No,
investigation. That the
no.
hammer is going to fall.
Yeah. The only way the mob kills cops is if it's a dirty cop, right?
Okay.
That's the only time they would probably consider killing them. I mean, to kill a cop and to take a cop's life for the mob to do that, they're not traditionally known for it. Will there be guys out there that would do it? Sure.
Sure.
There's lone wolves. There's the gas pipes, right? The guys out there like the mad, what's his name? Gregory Scarpa, the Grim Reaper. He'd kill a cop in a minute,
Right.
uh, Gasso, all those guys. So for me, it was walking on eggshell. Again, it was that adrenaline. You
Right.
said it. When you run an ultra marathon and you finish, you're exhausted. At the end of that race or at the end of that event, you're totally drained. I had that same feeling when I went home. Whether I went back to my apartment or I made it home to my true family, I had that adrenaline dump. And when I tell
Right.
you it was the same as running a marathon, or an ultra marathon, it's insane. You sleep for days. You don't want to get up, and then people start looking at you sideways. Your bosses are trying to call you. You sleep until 11 o'clock the next morning, your apartment, because you're just exhausted. But they're like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? He's late for another meeting. And they look at you like you're going rogue. I've been looked at that way from my supervisor. Where is he? Oh, dude, I'm just sleeping. I'm totally just mentally and physically
Right.
exhausted from the meeting I had last night till 2 in the morning, and I can't make it. That's the thing that people don't understand about working covert operations. It is exhausting.
Yeah. And I imagine, so like guys, in this profession, um, they have a bad shift. Like your shift, there was no shift. It was a life um that I I don't know. You were never really off. There was, I mean, when you went home, um, there was a ritual you tried to, right, conduct. Tell me about that.
So that was through my whole career. I adopted that philosophy and that way, that behavior. I was always on from the minute I woke up. When I first started the job, there were no such thing as pagers or beepers, right? And that's how
Right.
long ago it was. There were calling cars or something you called in a payphone or but even when they came out with the beepers and the cell phones, now you were always available for informants. So my cases, once I became a detective early in my career. So I was working homicides, major case, anything it was, not just drugs. All these cases I was working, the minute you wake up, just like a homicide detective, your brain is going right to that case immediately. That's how I operated. So when it came to doing undercover work, it was just another transition for me and just something to keep me busy, right? With somebody with ADD and ADHD, self-diagnosed, I knew I had that at a young age because I couldn't stop. I couldn't turn the job off. It just
Right.
consumed me. But it was also taught to me because I saw my father and saw how he operated. You know, he became a chief of detectives and he was running squads and he loved it. And I fed off of his guidance. So yeah, so I learned it early in my career. But then again, if I was able to shut it off and guys were going out drinking all night, see, when you live in New Jersey and you're a cop, maybe they don't back then, you could keep the bar open all night. The bars close at 2, 3 in the morning. But then again, if the guy's cleaning up till 5, you could hang out until 5. Then you
Sure.
leave. Then you went over and had mugs and eggs in the morning, and you went over to New York City, and then everything closed over there so they can clean up. And you came back to Jersey at 6 a.m. for mugs and eggs there. So you can get caught into that as well.
Right.
I fell into that trap for a short period of time, because you're trying to blend in, you're trying to fit in. That's my biggest warning to young cops today. Don't buy into that bullshit.
Right.
Don't buy into the hyper masculinity of trying to fit in with other cops. It's okay to be a standout. They'll make fun of you. They'll
Yeah.
abuse you.
Yeah.
They'll
You might
tease
catch
you.
some shit.
Yeah, you'll catch some shit like big brothers do, but eventually they'll respect
Yeah. It's funny, before we started, we were talking about the way we were and how we didn't talk about anything. We didn't discuss anything. We didn't share anything. And we kept it all inside. Um, and ultimately the people that we should have loved the most and should have cared about the most were the
you.
ones that ended up really um paying for it.
Oh, without a doubt, right? Even with the job, I was taught you don't talk about it. You suck it
Right.
up, buttercup, right? You hear that all the time. But I was taught that. You didn't cry. You didn't go to homicide scenes. Like guys, I was taught to process it in ways I won't even mention on the show because it's
Right.
embarrassing. Guys make jokes, inappropriate jokes at a crime scene and stuff. That's just a way to process trauma.
Sure.
But nowadays, I think that's changed drastically. But that's what I was taught by these guys. And you were the one that was thrown into a crime scene. And some of the crime scenes, you have to understand. Where I worked in Hudson County, New Jersey, I came on a 90, so it was just after Escobar's demise. But
Sure.
the cartels were still heavy in my area, and they were still killing entire families for like down in Florida, you saw massive amounts of kilos coming through. But up in New York and New Jersey, they slaughtered families. If they found out there were 10 kilos in the stash house, they would kill everybody in it. So you can only imagine the crime scenes that we saw.
Yeah, that's crazy. It didn't
So
even com-
no,
completely different. No, I mean, no rules, just fucking do whatever.
no rules, and you couldn't talk about it. Like if you talked about it, and you said, "Oh my God, I feel a certain way." You
Yeah.
could throw up. That was, you could throw up. You could be a little upset, but dude, if you showed any kind of emotion, you'd get
Right.
transferred. You
Right.
would literally get transferred. You'd be
You're
called a
not cut
thousand
out. You're
names.
not cut out for this kind of work.
No way,
Next.
dude. No way. And then it was, then when you hardened yourself a little bit to it, see, that's what I'm grateful. I talk about it in the book. My old man, to deter us from the streets, he would come home with autopsy photos, crime scene photos. He would show us those things. He would show my brother and I. And I think he did it not to abuse us, but to show us there's a world out there
No,
you don't
I
want to
mean,
be part of.
like the Ghost of Christmas Future, man. Listen, you want to what side of this photo do you want to be on? You want to be
Yeah.
the guy in the photo, or you want to be the guy taking the photo?
Yep. Yep. And that was his message. I still have the autopsy photo he brought home of the mob boss that was clipped in my area, who, I knew him and I hung out around him and I was around his nephews and stuff. But he eventually wound up his demise. And my old man came home with his autopsy photo. And to this day, I still have it because I kept it, as a
Wow.
reminder, But growing up around there, you realize how easy it was for people to murder. So again, that's something that was instinctively kept me alive. But at the same time, I knew what these guys are capable of. I knew the underworld would eat me in a second, right?
Right.
If I stutter step, because I just didn't want to be around corner boys. Corner boys are drug dealers on a corner. I wanted to be around the heavy hitters. I wanted to be around career criminals. I wanted to test my abilities, my trade craft. The more time went on the job, I would put myself in this, no matter what it was.
Right.
So therefore, I don't speak Russian. I infiltrated Russian organized crime, Albanians. I don't speak Chinese or Asian. Triads. I did them. Black Panthers, because I'm a kid from New York and New Jersey, and you just have that stink on you. So everybody thinks you're a gangster. The underworld, not everybody likes you, gangster.
Right.
Just to give you an idea, Albanians hated me. They hated Italians. They wanted to take over the Italians. Russians didn't like Italians. So you had to be real careful were they doing business just to work their way up to eventually rob you, because that's the world in the street. You could buy, well, this guy loves me. This guy John Kelly's bringing me 5 kilos a week. He's always on time. He always got his money, but you always got to keep your head on a swivel, because they're trying to lull you to sleep. Not everybody's doing it, and I experienced that in the case, and I talk about it. The kid Jimmy Smalls, eventually his cocaine was all cut. It was no good, and I had to, and I think that's what springboarded me in the street, because of incidents like that. I relied on my knowledge from growing up, and when he came to me and he gave me a bunch of baby laxative, it had no CDS, no cocaine in it whatsoever, I threw it back in his face. And when I did that, it's like a video game. Your points in your life kind of went up a few points, and
man.
The street looked at it and said, "Oh man, this guy he's okay." He threw it back in his face. He gave it back to me. I made the kid make it right.
Right. I thought it was really throughout the book and your life, man, that you managed to, like my Nicole asked me, did they ever ask him to kill somebody? I go, his role wasn't an enforcer. He was an asset development. He made. They don't want this guy getting dirty. They want him to continue making everybody money and moving product. Right? Was my saying that kind of accurate?
In the beginning, it was. They just looked at me as somebody they could tap into for cash, right? In the beginning, it was the kid Luigi, the guy Luigi I was dealing with. It was just business. It had nothing to do with organized crime or a crime family. It wasn't until they vetted me. They vetted me through the Gambinos. Once they did that, they came back and said, "Hey, I guess this kid's all right." But it wasn't until Charlie Stangl got a hold of me, and he's a made guy inside the family. He was just being released. He actually was just being paroled as I was coming in to the case. He was being paroled for murder. And once I got with him, he expected me to carry myself in the street. And he basically said, there's quotes in the book and tapes that I made along the way. He would say to me, "Listen, even if you're wrong," and I'm talking about, this is after I made it into the family and I was running my own crew for him. He would say to me, "Listen, even if you're wrong, if you make a mistake," and basically saying, if I kill somebody and it's the wrong guy I killed, even if you're wrong, Giovanni, I'll make you right. Don't worry about it.
Right.
So there was that level of respect. But he also, there's times when I took over a guy's construction company. I didn't, but Charlie did. And he had me reporting there every day to keep an eye on him. And the guy came in and he had a beef with somebody that was renting a dump truck on his property. A guy from older black guy from South Carolina. He had 3 dump trucks on the property, and he owed him back rent for the yard. Guy shows up while I was there. So the guy that's in my crew, he has the balls to show up here, grabs a galvanized fence pipe, and he goes, "I'm going to go split his skull. I'm going to go teach this guy a lesson. He owes me a lot of money. He's not leaving without paying me." So of course I go, I got to sit back. I can't insert myself into this. It's not my business.
Right.
But I represent Charlie at this point in the case. So I turn around and say, "Hey, where you going, Mikey? Where you going?" "I'm going to split his skull. I'm going outside." No. Hold on. You can't do that. I'm here. I represent Charlie. I'm here on property. If you do that, it brings heat to me. It's going to bring heat to Charlie. What, are you crazy? Let me talk to the guy. Let me go outside. So I can't threaten the guy. I go outside and say, "Hey, listen, my name's so-and-so." And the guy was standoffish for me. He's a nice guy. But again, I ingratiated myself. I said, "Listen, he wants to come out here, hit you in the back of the head with a pipe, and the guy he scared the shit out of him." So basically what happened was I turned around. Yes, I could have jumped in and said, let's go tune this guy up. Let's go get you money.
Right.
Make sure you give me a piece. That's what happens in the street. But because of the way I handle myself, the guy winds up getting all of his trucks off the property. I said, look, I don't care how you get them off the property. 2 of the trucks don't run. As long as one runs, drag the other 2 off the property, get them on the other side of the fence, and then give this guy his money. So end of the day, I get a call from Charlie, and Charlie's on the West Coast. And he's like, so how'd it go today? How was your day? That was all right. And anything go on? No, nothing. And because I didn't make a big deal out of it, I didn't bring it up. Nothing at all. No. Well, what happened with the guy in Mikey's yard? Oh, how'd you know about that? And he says, I know everything. And the guy Mike called him up and says, hey, I was gonna kill this, tune this guy up. But Giovanni, he showed me a way to do it the right way. And I got paid, Charlie. I got half of my money. I'll get my other half. He's gonna pay me back. Yeah. And if he doesn't. So because of the way I carried myself and I didn't go right to violence, Charlie liked it. But then eventually I did have to murder. At the end of the book, as you know, they wanted me to kill 2 guys first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they expected.
That was it's almost like that needed to happen for you to get out. Is Oof. That, I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I
do.
Just me, like, I don't fucking listen. I don't know anything about anything, man. Right. But I'm like, there's no way out of it. The only way you're getting out of this is in a fucking coffin.
Right.
Or if they asked you to do something that you just absolutely can't do, because the people that you are reporting to on the legal side of it.
Yeah.
Your wife said, they don't give a shit about you, and they never have. And, as soon as they're done using you, they'll be on to the next guy. And, you were in it, man. And
you're referring to the government. You're not referring
to no, I'm referring to the fucking piece of shit government, bro.
Yeah. She saw that.
They'll never love you the way you love them, man. It just doesn't happen.
And I knew that. Right. The whole time. Any level of government, state, local, federal, it didn't matter. I always got what I wanted because they gave it to me. As long as I was able to do my work and do the work that I love to do in the trade craft that I love, I'm good. I'll do whatever. You can use me like a whore, and you can be my pimp, and that's how I describe the relationship. And I'm good. I'm good with that. You allow me to travel, you allow me to do these things, and I'm doing your jobs, and I'm getting your numbers, and I'm bringing seizures in, and I'm bringing millions of dollars of seizures in on cases. Everybody was happy. Everybody's basking in seized money, assets. So everybody was happy. If they're happy, I'm happy. And I was given a chance to work more cases. I was being brought into cases as cameos. I mean, some high. And the thing is, at this point, I went from criminal to foreign counterintelligence spies. Whoever thought I'd be working foreign counterintelligence?
Was that because of the shift of the FBI after 9/11?
No, it was, they've always been that way. But when you're trained by their unit, you're trained in every aspect. Yeah, they might not use you for that. You get trained, right? Even when I talk about it in school, my roommate at the school had to tell me what FCI stood for. I didn't know what FCI even was. I was like, what is FCI? He says, oh, that's foreign counterintelligence. What the hell is that? And he explained to me, it's spies. Dude, I'm a kid from Hudson County, New Jersey.
Right, yeah.
There's no way they're ever gonna. Why do I have to sit through this class? So if I fail this portion of the school, like, I can't become an undercover operative for the government. I'm never gonna work foreign counterintelligence. John, I can't tell you how fast I was springboarded into FCI cases. No, which I can't talk about because but just crazy stuff that I thought I would never be doing. So the criminal side of it and the organizational side of it was tremendous. But to be able to work spy stuff, that's a different brain. That's a whole different, I had to change my dialect. I couldn't be so, sometimes I had to be, but most of the time I had to be a polished turd, right? But well-dressed, a businessman. I could be a guy with a New York accent, but I had to be the right guy with a New York accent.
Sure.
And they understood it. Even terrorism, they understood that we were money guys. We clean their money. It just worked.
Right.
Like you brought it up, post 9/11, the terrorists would never use guys that were American, but they needed us because as they transitioned from the Al-Qaeda being in a cave dwelling, pajama wearing, sandal wearing guys that they people referred to them as, even in their own culture. I mean, now they started wearing Abercrombie and Fitch, Gap clothes. They started to look like Americans. They
Started
American.
blending in a little too much.
They had to. They had to, right?
Right.
You know, we even worked a case one time when two cells started fist fight in the hotel room. My buddy was in a room and he was operational, and two cells went at each other. And the whole premise was, you're not Al Qaeda. Look at you. And that's what you referred to. That's why I say the pajamas. Just look at you in your stupid pajamas. And he's referring to his garb and what he's wearing. And he goes, I'm the new Al Qaeda. And they started fighting over, like, you know, I'm the new Britney Spears. You're nobody. Like, I'm Taylor Swift. You know, you're Britney
Shit.
Spears. I'm Taylor Swift.
Hey,
You have to change the times.
fellas, what are we doing? Come on,
And that's
we're
what it
all
was.
terrorists.
And that's exactly what my colleague who was in the unit with me, that's exactly what his response was.
Yeah.
You know, we're all terrorists. Come on, let's all get
We all
along.
hate
Let's
Americans. Come on.
come on. Let's get back to planning this train bombing. Let's go. You know?
Oh shit, man.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
so it wasn't all guns and drugs, and it was crazy.
Right.
You know? And again, it wasn't just you. You had to look out for how everybody was doing their part, even your support staff.
Right.
You know? We did a gun deal one time, and it was out in Vegas, and we did it, and we had to flash the guns. It was all cases full of Glocks, and somebody used the wrong case of Glocks, and we opened it up, pried the box open, and it said, you know, property U.S. government stamped on the side of all the guns. So what do you say to that? You know,
right.
You know, my colleague he thought on his feet real fast, and you know, looked at it, realized, holy shit, I can't show it, I can't. And the guy's like, here, let me see one of the guns, let me see it. And he's like, no, different case. Let's, you know, let's get back to it later. Thank God he was a fast talker.
Sure.
You know? So yeah, and you have to really move with these things. I was loading a truck with a bunch of cartel guys, Mexican cartels, and we had a little bit of a chain going, and we were moving the boxes because it was faster. And one of the kids, a younger undercover, his eyes got as big as like saucers, and I was like, "Give me the box," and he just vapor locked. And he just kept shaking his head. I said, give me the box. Come on, everybody's waiting. Give me the box. They wouldn't give me the box because there was a huge red sticker on the side of the box that said evidence. And it was seized. That whole load of what we were moving was seized. Shit. It was a load that was seized out of evidence from CBP that we had used. And this kid looked at me and, you know, here I got the next guy waiting for me. And he's like, come on, give me the box. And, you know, you just have to think quick on your feet. You can't get emotional. You can't shut down. But again, that's that you can later on when you get home, that's when you dump it all. You have the release and you dump it.
Hey, there were a couple times you kind of touched on in the book where you know you almost got burned, but you know, getting burned isn't like, oh, the operation's over now. These you not. I get why you had to be addicted to it. You know, it's like I told you, I want to give you a pass, you know, to a certain extent, because you need to be excellent at that. You've got to be the best. And just like our guys and girls out there, like they can't half-ass it, man. They have to be excellent at what they do, or maybe they don't come home. The importance
we were told
of that
in the training, we were told that they actually played. And again, not just the Bureau, but undercover trainings, like a lot of schools that I have been to afterwards along my career, even the ones I taught in and helped, they would play deals gone bad, you know, and you would listen to guys, you know, undercovers be shot and killed in apartments down in Miami. A lot of times it happened, you know, unfortunately back in the 80s and 90s, that's where a lot of it happened. And they wanted you to listen to deals gone bad because that's going to be you laying, you know, and you had to understand it could be you laying in a puddle of your own piss and blood. And maybe it's the guys that come after you that listen to your tape and you gurgling on your last breath, you know, and that's the things that they listen to, and they would plant that seed in our brain.
Right.
So when they did those things, I thought it was a little extreme, but then I saw the benefits and the bona fides it paid years later, because I was so invested in doing covert work that I went above and beyond what they taught me. Then I started doing my breath work. I started doing my mindfulness. I'm talking in the late 90s and 2000s.
Right. Before anybody even knew what that was a thing.
Yeah, long before, because ticks and tells, right? Ticks and tells in my world is everything, in the underworld especially. If I see you're nervous, it can go down a rabbit hole real quick. So you had to harness those ticks and tells. You had to harness your nerves. How do you do that? By breathing, you know. And when I was able to do that, that's why my career was on steroids at that point, because you become known for a guy who's not I could be cold-hearted. I can make it look. If I can control my emotions and control my heart rate, dude, doing something like this, I'd freak out getting up in front of a class and speaking, just sitting here and talking with you. I would get nervous early in
Right.
my life. Now, it's everything is breathing and everything is understanding how your body reacts to trauma. And as soon as you can harness that and turn it into a superpower, you're golden.
Right. Hey, let me ask you when we talk about that, like you need to be excellent, but I'm gonna you check me if I'm wrong on this, but that came at a price, man.
Yeah.
Is there a way, right? How do we how and I know this I don't think this is an impossible ask, but how do we become excellent? How do we demand excellence from our people, right? Without sacrificing being a good dad, being a good husband, being a good person to yourself.
Yeah.
How do
That's
we
hard,
do
right?
that, brother?
So when
I know that's a loaded question, man.
No, it's not a loaded question. You go down different ways about it, but you could look at it from different angles. But as a law enforcement, you want to keep your superiors happy. You want to keep the executives happy, right? Even in corporate America, you want to do the same.
Right.
So it's a risk. So my family, listen, guys, you have to risk this. I'm not going to be home for Christmas because I have to work, right? That's what I do to make the money come in, to buy the presents, to do this, so you can have these holidays. And that's how we kind of just wash it away. We're
Right.
ultimately me. I was never a say no guy. If my superiors asked me to do something, I would do it, no matter what day of the week it was, no matter if I missed the soccer game or whatever. And I would slip. I think the way we break that cycle, and I think it is happening, the higher ups, the executives, and we hear it all the time in the environments that we go into. It's the buy-in from the top down.
Right.
The executives, the leaders, the effective leaders in these organizations have to be the ones to constantly remind these guys what's the most important. This job is important, your salary is important, and the way you provide for your family, but they have to push that family component. You have to let the family in, not just give the officer or the first responder resources, but you have to have the family have the same resources allocated to them as well. That I learned after 9/11. I saw how different agencies like NYPD and the Port Authority PD, how they treated their members and how they looked out for the families as well. Right? Don't wait for a guy to be died, to be killed in the line of duty, and then wait for him to be on he or she to be honored, and then look out for the family.
Right.
Look out for the family for years afterwards. Bring the family in, embrace the family, and always remind us what's important because we lose sight of it. When we're in the thick of it, I know you probably did. You lose sight of your family members.
Yeah, man.
Listen, are the bills paid, honey? Okay. You got your car? Yeah.
What?
Kids
Yeah.
got their presents? Okay. And
Yeah.
it's easy to say that,
Right.
but as an
That becomes the
individual,
rationalization for your addiction, man.
yeah, it does. It does. Now, see, and especially in law enforcement, because you work overtime, you can work a whole nother career and make a whole nother salary almost equal to the area where
Guys
I
that
came from.
right.
Pay jobs. We call them pay jobs, off duty work.
Sure.
You could tell your old lady or your old man, hey, I got to work a pay job tomorrow, and then just go fuck off somewhere.
Right.
You can do that, but you have to hold yourself accountable, and I think the leaders have to hold their guys accountable. We don't give ourselves enough credit as first responders, and especially as law enforcement, that we don't give ourselves enough credit that we are a true professional. We're a licensed professional. Our license is our academy certificate that says we are licensed in the state that we're an officer in, and we don't hold ourselves to that standard. We're proud that you look at us as knuckle drag, like military, right?
Mm.
Like military guys, special forces guys, we're door knockers, we're knuckle draggers. Yeah, we are, right? Because that's what keeps us alive. And that's our job. But you can't go down that rabbit hole of believing your own BS.
Mm.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. It does actually. I think, and the only thing I would add to that, G, is that you can't wait for the higher ups to figure it out. Like if you're in it, so that's where I think that you like having some ownership and understanding that nobody's coming to save us.
No, no way. And that's the thing my wife told me early on. See, she worked undercover as well. And she said, listen, they're just using you. Yeah, I know. I knew that. Deep down inside, I knew she was 100% right.
Right.
But I'm like, no, listen, I got to work this case. I have an understanding of the targets and the subjects and this and that. Again, we always have a reason, you know. But when they're getting what they want out of us, and again, think about your career, you know, where you worked in the area of Florida, a lot of fatals, right? A lot of
Right.
fatal accidents, a lot of fatals on the highways every single day down there. So you get this old crotchety guy who works homicide. Now he becomes fatal, right? And he's working fatals every single day. When you're looking at fatals, multiple cars, kids dead, all this stuff every day. And now all of a sudden you become known for it. And then you go, oh my God, he's the best. You know, John Kelly, man, he's the king of fatals. He can go to an autopsy and eat a sandwich while they're, you know, cutting up a
Right. Right.
person. That's not a badge of honor. Dude, you're borderline sociopathic. If
Right.
that doesn't bother you and
You've
you go,
lost everything that makes you human.
exactly, you have lost who you were as the candidate. You lost who you were as the patrolman you started on this job. And if you really think that way yourself, and kudos to you for being that kind, some people could just process it. I had a partner that did that. He was great at homicide, you know. But then we had a case where a mom butchered her kids and it was really bad. And he had 5 kids, and finally he just snapped. And at the crime scene, he almost shot the lady who killed her kids. He started to unholster and he was walking towards the car, and nobody thought in a million years that this guy would do this.
Right.
And as he's walking, like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Where are you going? And then somebody finally realized, dude, he's unholstered. He's going to kill this lady, you know, because finally, after all these years, he became so, it touched on his personal life.
Right.
He
Right.
at the time, he's a father of 5 kids. And again, it's that the ability to identify. You can still be a good investigator. You can still be a good cop, but you got to keep yourself in check. You got to
Yeah,
keep your
man.
mental health at point, man. You know, yeah. With the
We need to.
resources we have nowadays, it's easier than when we were
It's
starting.
almost like you're a pussy if you don't get mental health checkups and take care of yourself. Like there's no reason for you not to.
But I bought into that. I bought into the. I wouldn't listen. You're not going to see me cry. You
Right.
know, if I did, I cried in the shower. You know, the horrible ones. I would wait to go home. I would literally wait till I got home, like everybody else did. My father taught me that. You know, you wait, you go to the bathroom, find a quiet place, and you get rid of it. You know,
Right.
what does that mean? What does that mean? But as time went on, I started to realize it. And I bought into it. I think I'd be a different person today if I didn't have my training in the bureau. So you have to understand, when I became an FBI undercover, in order for me to operate, and this is funny, I had to go for a mental health check every 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
Religion, okay? If you missed it, you better get in there because you can't operate unless you have this. You had to check the box and do a mental health check. And all it consisted of was a series of tests like you took when you came on the job, a
Yeah.
background. And then you sat in front of a mentor, another undercover, and then you sat in front of a psychologist, and they made sure you're okay to continue to operate. Because again, when you're operating globally, you know, you had your financial background done on you once a year, so you couldn't become corrupt or sell out to another
Sure.
country. So they put all these things in place for your mental health, but it wasn't for your mental health. It was for
It
them to
was
check the box.
it was liability for
All it
their
was is liability, John. That's all it
their
was.
liability.
But again, see, here's the thing. My addiction to wanting to do the job, to be an undercover, I bought all in. At first, I was like, so hold on, wait a minute. I'm a TFO. I'm not a special agent. What happens if I fail one of these mental health things? Like what they call them safeguards. What happens if I fail one of these safeguard tests? What do I, well, you know, you can't work undercover anymore. You'll be DNR, do not recommend. Okay, but are you going to notify my department that I'm found mentally incompetent in some way, shape, or form? Well, yeah, you know, they get the records. So I could lose my job. I could, you know, go off the job. I'm not going off the job on a mental disability. So, but when they offered that to me, I signed on and I was like, all right, what do you want to know? And I was raw as raw can be. And that was the best point going forward. All the trauma that I carried for a decade before,
Mhm.
dead babies, dead kids, crime scenes, and even in my childhood, all the trauma I carried, and I thought that I was using it for good purposes on the job. I started to process it. And I only processed it because one of the psychologists helped me process it. And he taught me how to reframe and taught me these phrases and taught me, you know, now I started to process all of my trauma. And when I understood it and the nightmares slowed down, the nightmares weren't coming as often as they were. I didn't see the horrific things that I was seeing in my sleep. You know, that's when the game changed for me.
Right.
You know, and that's when I saw the investment on my mental health. And then I said, okay, well, how about this? What if I add a little breath work in? What if I add a little bit of this in? What if I did this or that? You know? So yeah, then I was all in on it. So it's the best thing that ever happened.
And is it? I like to propose that we don't wait till we hit rock bottom. Like let's you sitting on the edge of the bed with a gun in your hand isn't the time to start talking about breath work.
Been there. I've been there
Right.
with family members. I come from a family of cops. And, it's funny you say that because you just painted the picture of me walking in on my family member. And I won't say who, but it
Right.
happened multiple times in my family. The guys who came before me and my blood, my flesh and blood, were at their last minutes and they were drunk as anything. And they were sitting on the edge of the bed. And here I was, stupid kid. And my one guy, the cops had him barricaded. And I
Yeah.
had to go in here's my uncle. I had to go in there and what does he do? Pulls the gun on me and shoves it in my face.
Yeah.
And basically says, yeah, I should just, I should go out there and kill her. I should go out there and kill myself. Maybe I'll just kill you. And, so again, these are all experiences I had and I understood it. And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't
Right.
want to be like that, man. I don't want to be in that much distress. It already cost me a marriage. It
How
cost me
much fucking pain is that guy in?
to this day.
Right.
Yeah, to this day. And like I said, I look at it and most people go, holy shit, like your family member pulled a gun out. Yeah, like that's nothing for me to have guns pulled on me.
Little gunplay amongst family. I mean, come on.
But again, I always said, well, I use it in my undercover world. Because some guy, and I did, when somebody came in, I had cartel guys. I walked in a room. I walked in Harlem in the 90s, and I walked in, and there were guns and drugs all over the place.
Right.
And I walk in, and it's like they're all laying all over. Most guys would be the smart ones and say, fuck this, turn around and walk out.
I got the wrong room. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Me, I'm like, what's that? And again, that's what happened in my first case. But I'd walk in and all the guns. You expecting a battle? And hey, all these guns. And again, you de-escalate. All these guns. You guys are afraid of me. Look at the size of me. I'm 175 pounds. I'm not going to hurt anybody. Bad enough for you. And it just ingratiated me, And again,
people,
that's what I brought. That's what I brought. No, yeah. I brought that to the training in the Bureau. So when the Bureau, you asked me about earlier, the story in the book, when the Bureau put me through these scenarios, I knew I was coming out alive. Shit. I had
the Bureau. You can't kill me.
You can't kill me. I mean, believe me, they beat you and they would mess with you, like mentally. Yeah, they tortured you, literally tortured you, but it's for a purpose. It's so you have that resilience. But yeah, I learned a lot from it. So I think the importance of understanding a mental health check isn't to jam you up. It's to look out for you.
And that could be something that we do for each other. No, I mean, listen, gee, if you and I are rolling together and you're not the same guy you were yesterday and today, and you know what, we saw some fucked up stuff last night. And I think that us caring for each other at a different level, maybe a level that we're not comfortable with, I think it's crucial.
I think so. And again, it's not to compare the old days to today, but these kids today, these kids, they have it a little better. They're a little bit open with their feelings now, which I think is good. Shit, you and I did car-to-car therapy on a midnight run, and that's, we sat there window to window in cruisers, and I said, bro, my marriage is in a shitter. This is happening, that's happening. I got 5 girlfriends. I can't control all of whatever it was.
Right.
You go, yeah. You knew you were in the same boat as me, but when, there's no level of confidentiality. You drove away and went to the next scene or handled the job without me in another sector, and you were like, hey man, you hear what happened to G? He's getting divorced. He's a shit show. He's a train wreck. We never looked out for each other. We would watch the wheels fall off.
Right. Until
they either killed somebody, killed themselves. We would watch the wheels fall off. And I think they're onto something these days because, again, given the ability to talk to a mental health professional today, making it, you should be burned out, dude. It's the people who are not burned out. It's the guys who are not affected by this job that are ones that are really hurt, the ones that are not communicating. Today it should be, I'm going for my mental health check. All's good in my life,
Right.
And I learned how to process this trauma instead of just carrying it, man. It's carrying it like a rucksack.
And waiting to hit that wall. It's
how many 50-pound plates can you fit in your backpack? Eventually it starts to wear you down, man. And then not only my weights, I'm carrying my weight, but now I'm carrying your weight. because you're my brother. I worry about your
We
family,
do
your
that,
kids.
don't we? We
We
do
do.
that, don't we?
We do. We do it because we're good people, right? Again, we're the best candidates for the job. We've had psychological tests done on us. We're the best candidate. I say this all the time. We're the best candidates, but this job will callous you. This job will wear you down. You'll see the most evil things you see. This job will pull you from your religion, whatever your faith is. It
Right.
did it for me, you know? And once you start to lose those anchors and those pillars in the community, all hell breaks loose,
Yeah.
you know, kind of what we're seeing in society today.
Yeah. Family being one of them, man.
Right. Right. Yep. You know, self-worth and the worth of others. So, but there's a fine balance. I think it's changing for the better. I think, but a lot of times I kind of encourage guys and girls along the way. You might be 5 years on a job. Please don't forget the people who came before you. The same thing that they're offering your PD or your agency. Please look out for the retired ones that went already. They're still
Yeah,
alive.
man.
They're still collecting a pension, and they're not being given the services or
No,
the
that's
resources
it's
that.
funny that you mentioned that, man. I just found out there's a website for retirees for my old department. I
Yeah.
was like, who would have known, right? And
Right.
and with that is, groups like retiree luncheons, guys getting together,
Yeah.
and looking out for each other. And um, that's important because I think for those guys that were see, I like to think that you woke up, bro. You woke up. A lot of guys haven't woken up, man. A lot of guys are still wearing their high school football jersey, thinking that, those, you remember when I threw the ball to you, G, and you scored the touchdown and we banged the cheerleaders under the bleachers. And
Right.
dude, that was 40 years ago.
Right.
Um, there were a lot of guys, I think, that haven't transitioned into retirement. Um,
Well, a lot of these guys, they live and breathe the job, right? They let the
right.
job, and again, I don't want to tarnish the badge and I don't want to take away from it, but
No, listen, the job's amazing.
the job is an amazing job. And the fact that we're given the opportunity, we're blessed. We truly are. But that piece of that shield, it's made of tin, right? It's tin. It doesn't identify who you are. It doesn't say the character of the man or the woman you are, right? It's just something that identifies you as far as being the authority on site, right? When you let that badge and that gun go to your head, which we all do to a certain extent, you have to find that balance, right? Because then it becomes that is your identity. And it becomes your identity for 25 years. And then all of a sudden, when they cut that cord, what do you do now? You lost your identity. So you just become a drunk, you become a belligerent, just old, crotchety old guy.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
gain 50 pounds and you
you do. And you
stop
just,
doing all the
yeah.
things that you love to do. And
Right, right. And it's again, you let this job you let it become your identity. See, for me, when I became an undercover, a deep undercover, full time, I wouldn't talk like a cop. I wouldn't want to be around cops. I didn't go to police functions. I didn't go to those things because I didn't want to be associated, like wearing shirts or whoever I was in a bar with, or I couldn't be around those guys.
right.
So I kind of lost my identity in that aspect. That shit, when I retired and I became a speaker and guys wanted me to come into these different departments, I'm speaking to a couple of hundred cops. I was sweating bullets. I'd rather be in a room full of gangsters
I
than a
was
room
gonna
full of
say,
cops.
I think your identity, man, your identity got twisted because you stopped. Dude, check me, right? I mean, this is more of a question than a statement, but I'll say you stopped being a cop a long time ago, man, when you got into your deep undercover work.
Sure. And not, I don't think I lost. I knew what my mission was. I always knew what my
Right.
mission was, and I always knew which team I was, right? Team America, good guys. I never lost sight of that.
Right.
But again, I had, on top of my true identity, I had 4 separate identities: social security numbers, dates of birth, credit histories, criminal histories on some. Some I was the owner of a company, some I was just a degenerate gambler. I had all these different personas to live, right? So I had to manage all of these lives. It's hard enough just being ourselves,
It's
right?
hard enough, right? I got one guy. I got
Right,
one guy to take care of, and I can't even do that. You're
right.
juggling 4 or 5.
But me, in my older, more mature undercover life, I had a good balance of that. See, because I learned how to be me. I could change my name, I could change my identity, but I was always just me, the guy sitting in front of you now. I would never change that. I could be a turd or I could be a polished turd. I turn that up and down, but it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Listen, when you're living, you can fly on jets and you can. Oh, so you like to fish? One of my talk. Oh, so you like to fish? You like want to go fishing? No, I don't like the Atlantic. I'm a Pacific guy. All right, let's get on a plane. We'll take my plane to Hawaii and we'll go. Depending on the case, depending on the money they're throwing at you, you could take a guy just to ingratiate with him. You could take him fishing, and again, you had to have the resources to do it, and the government approves it. But you can live a different life, and you can go down a rabbit hole in that aspect. And I did, to an extent. To when I was living my full mob life, I was in Vegas one time, and I think I talk about it in a book where Charlie wanted me to come pick him up at his house, and I'm trying to leave my hotel in Vegas, and I'm waiting for my car at the valet. And I realized this cops who are these cops watching? Obviously, this guy's a cop, that guy's they were all like 3 or 4 undercover cops. And I didn't know what agency they were with, but I'm thinking, man, they must be looking for somebody. They were on me the whole time. So I didn't, again, because I turned my cop brain off. I turned my cop brain off and I had my bad guy brain on. So I'm like, what are they looking for?
What are you looking at?
Guy wearing 511s, got the gun sticking out, bulging out. So I test them. I go back into the casino. It was into Aria. I go back inside the casino, and the guy follows me to the bathroom. Shit. I go back outside. One guy's hiding behind a pillar to like communicate and via text. And I go back inside. Another guy follows me inside. So finally, I'm like, hey, if you want to know where I'm going, just ask me. So what happened was I must have made it onto the task forces, the Vegas task force. They know when you're coming if you're associated with a Cosa Nostra. So that's what I found out. These guys were on me. So you got to understand, like, that's a pretty good sign that I'm a good bad guy.
Right. No doubt.
And it kind of bolsters you up a little bit. You go home feeling, and it's a funny story to go tell your agents and tell them, hey, sorry, I'm late for the meeting, man, but I had bulls all over me. What's a bull? Bulls. What's a bull? A cop. Cops. I had cops. And even the cops don't understand the bad guy lingo. I'm talking to a cop and saying the bulls were all over me. And this kid doesn't even know what I'm saying. It's like I'm speaking another language to him. So, yeah, at that point in my career, I would never if I got pulled over on the way home, I never said, hey, brother, like cops do. Hey, brother, I just want you to know right away that I'm a cop and you're pulling me over. Or, you see a cop in uniform. Hey, brother, how are you today? Hey, boss. Hey, boss. Because in my mind, I was a convicted felon. I've been to prison and they have to know it. So you condition yourself. So I really lost that area of my identity, my true identity. I kind of lost a little bit.
Right.
And it'll come out sometimes still. It's easier for me to be a little gangster with somebody to get my point across.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's funny, bro.
It's an insulting thing. I was out in Vegas last week and I'm on the elevator and the family looks at me and they were from another country and they turn around and I'm dressed, I'm all black. I got with my Italian tux on, which is
bro.
The Adidas warm-up suit. And the lady looks at me and she's like, oh, you're from New York, the Northeast. I said, yes, I am. Yes, I am. And then again, she goes, oh, and all she said to that
was, come on.
Here. And her response was,
tell me somewhere in your closet isn't a pair of white patent leather shoes, and you don't have the pants with the built-in belt, do you?
I don't have the pants with the belt.
Now I'm going real guinea on you, okay?
Well, I will say I had the shoes on that you're describing. Like all white,
Oh, I love it. Oh, God.
It's not leather, it's the polished leather. It's the good shoes. It's the high-end shoes. So shame on me. And I had all my hardware on.
Of course.
So, and she looks at me and the only thing this woman could say to me is, well, I'm a huge fan of Sopranos. I'm like, why? Why would you say that to me? So
why would you say that to me?
So you're looking at me as if I was some, organized crime syndicate. And so that's kind of like at times. So even when we moved, even when we relocated, I'd come out dressed the same way I just described. My wife would be like, you're going to go to soccer like that?
You're going to go to soccer? It's a PTA meeting. Come on.
I got my Kangol hat on. She's like, But again, it's our culture. It's our way of life.
Hysterical.
It's all coming back now, my friend.
You're a fashion plate. Yes.
And let me tell you, as far as fashion
goes, you didn't throw away all the tracksuits, bro.
Guess what's coming back? And I saw online members only jackets.
You were the last member. So
I might have been the last member. I'm gonna get one. Next time you see me, I'll be wearing one.
Oh my God. You can't make this shit up.
Yeah.
That's awesome, bro. Listen, man, what do you do? Can we talk about what you're doing now? Because I think you're
Yeah,
doing
I'd
some
love
great
to.
things now, man.
Yeah,
You're doing
yeah.
some great things now.
I,
Um,
I'm doing the best work I've ever done in my life.
how about that?
Yeah,
And this is coming from a guy who um, uh, more meaningful,
yeah.
more
Definitely more
meaningful.
meaningful. Um, the results are tremendous, right? It doesn't have to be. I mean, just I'm fortunate enough where, all right, let's say what I'm doing. So I kind of fell into this. A colleague of mine is a police therapist, and he had asked me to do some presentations with him. I'll give him
Yep.
a shout out, Tom Coughlin, Dr. Tom Coughlin. I
Okay.
didn't know him from a hole in the wall, and he was just leaving the NYPD and starting his own business, helping police and being a police psychologist. And he had a presentation. I just fell into it. And then along the way, my relationship with him grew and we became like brothers. And then he actually reached out to me and said, listen, I'm kind of getting in my feet wet in the addiction field.
Uh-huh.
And this is something where I think you can be effective. And he brought me in to a couple of places and I started working with them for first responder programs.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I've been doing it since probably 2017, 18. And I started getting, in touch with that. And then I've just developed programs. And finally, my colleague and myself, we help a place, Lakeview Health, based out
Lakeview
of
Health,
Florida.
man.
Lakeview Health is a great place, been around forever, but they're not recreating the wheel. They wanted to start like so many of these places want to do, right? Because they want to get their claws into the money. Lakeview Health wasn't that way. They're a
And this
long-standing
is
place
a
for 20 some
national
years.
organization. They're all over
Yeah.
the country.
Well, they're not all over. They have one location. That's what's nice about it.
Okay.
So they have the one location in Jacksonville, but they've been doing it right. They had what's called a professionals program. So they do working professionals, right? They'll help anybody at any level, even kids that don't have insurance or, indigent. They'll help other people. There's programs for that. But their professionals program was what I latched on to
Mhm.
because they do the NFL contract. They might have airlines and union workers, guys and girls that the common denominator is to get through treatment, get what you need, and get back to work.
Gotcha.
And our first responders fit into that perfectly.
Sure.
From my brain and everything that you and I just talked about empathy, see, I started to understand a first responder going through a first responder program with another professional outside of first responders is the best thing because you
Okay.
hear other stories and you start to understand, wait a minute, I that guy's not my brother. He's not my sister in work, but I feel the same way that guy does. Holy cow. I have so much in common with these people.
His
So,
problems are my problems, and my problems are his
yeah.
problems.
Yeah. And then I met some guys along the way, guys and girls along the way that shared their stories with me and said some of the best recovery they ever had was with what we call the junkies, right? One guy said, I didn't go through a first responder program. I went to a place where it was all homeless or just street
Right.
guys and girls suffering from addiction, down and out, guys that we used to process. And he said, those people looked out for me more than the first
Huh.
responders did in recovery.
It's
So it
funny,
kind of,
G. I think there's two schools of thought, right? I mean, I think that there's really value if you can be smart enough to recognize that we're all in this together,
Mhm.
then there's great value in sitting down with somebody who is different from you profession wise, because I think that I think there might be less of a stigma associated with that. That we're all listen, if we can tackle this on a human level instead of like segregating. All right, so all the cops go to this program, all the flight all the pilots go to this program, all the
Right.
sports if we could just people helping people, man.
Well, that's it, right? Again, it's not to say that the way we're doing it is the only way of doing it,
Right.
but there is that level of if it's all first responders in a group setting, I might not talk about the things that bother me because it goes back to what you and I discussed earlier. Is I might not want to bring up the trauma that's bugging me because I don't want to be seen as a sissy. I don't want to be seen as weak mentally, so I won't bring that up. So I'm really not getting what I need
It
while I'm
might
here
be
for
a
this.
safe it might actually be a safer area to
Yeah.
be with people that aren't first responders.
And I've seen it, and the results are tremendous, right? I'll
Okay.
put you with first responders, I'll put you with veterans, and the veterans are the same way.
Right.
I could we have those breakout sessions, and
Sure.
you'll do a different group. Because again, you and I sitting and talking about our trauma with some poor dentist who's going through recovery with us,
Yeah.
we will traumatize that guy, and
Yeah.
he'll never be the same if we
No.
share our stories. So there has to be there has to be some kind of curriculum that
But I
allows
like the
us.
crossover and the ability to have group with your people, and then to interact with people that maybe have a different perspective.
Right. And that brings up the de-escalation. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about who is really the problem at the scene. A domestic scene. Is it you, or is it the people that you're trying to, respond to at the scene? Most of the time it's the cop. Most of the time they'll show up and they'll throw gas on a fire.
Right.
They won't listen. They're not effective listeners.
We're effective tellers.
Yeah. And that's why everything I did with my job, active listening. So really, what is the issue? Let's look at your problems. While you're going through these addictions and you go down these rabbit holes, you don't maybe not have an addiction, maybe just in your general life. Your wife or your spouse or your significant other is telling you you're not the same person you were when I met you. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to tell you. I've heard it. My wife said to me, "You're
Yeah.
becoming somebody else. You're not the person I married you now." And
Right.
these are the people we would listen to the most,
Yeah.
and we're not. We totally just shut it right off.
Yeah, we have. Sometimes we don't want to hear the truth. That they're speaking the truth, right?
Right.
They're speaking the truth, and that depending on where we're at in our lives, that's either well received or not.
Right. And to your point, it's a little bit more effective when you're around other people from outside cultures or outside professions and go, "Oh, you know what? That dude's a whole high profile football player, but he has the same problems I do. Oh, you know what? That guy's a doctor or an attorney, or, he's a
Right.
CEO of a major company. He has the same problems I have." So you start to humanize it, you start to understand.
Right.
Addiction doesn't care, man. Doesn't care what color, what race you are, doesn't care your walk of life, doesn't care. It'll
No.
come for you. It'll come for you. And when it does, it comes hard.
That and you guys really giving back control.
Yeah. Yeah, giving them their family, giving their, family is everything with us. There's a strong focus on family, going back to what we said earlier about what can leaders do.
Right.
Lakeview's great because they allow me and my colleague Jose, they allow us to do a certain level of prevention and awareness, because I don't want to wait for you to fall down to need my
Right.
services. I don't want you to ever, and it's crazy that Lakeview thinks that. We don't want you to need our services, but there's plenty of people out there that are going to need our services.
Right.
But the prevention and awareness is everything. Because if I can go out and share my story, you share doing what you're doing here with the podcast, at least somebody that's in a dark place or feeling alone or depressed, they'll hear the story and they'll say, "Oh my God, I thought it was just me that felt this. I thought I was the weak one in the bunch."
Man, being vulnerable is powerful, and it 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 doesn't tell people that they're not alone. It shows them,
Sure.
right? It
Mhm.
shows them. It's tangible at that point that shit.
Right.
I thought I was the only one who absolutely fucking hated themselves. You know,
Right.
everybody hates themselves
Yeah,
from
of
time to
course.
time.
Of course. And listen, some relationships are bound not to work, right? Some relationships are, what I'll talk about mine, talk about your relationship, whatever it is.
Right.
Some are just not meant to be.
Right.
So, and for me, I look back and I don't have regrets in my life. Everything happened for a reason.
Mhm.
Everything put me here with you today.
Yeah, man.
Good, bad, or indifferent. And I gotta mitigate it. I've apologized to my older kids for not being there sometimes. I apologized recently. They're older now and they have their own families and stuff. And I've apologized to them. "Hey guys, I'm sorry that, so many of our birthdays were spent in a car, in a government G ride, with a candle and a cupcake and opening gifts. And,
Yeah, man.
because that's what it had to be. The forgiveness of, oh my God, my son, it still tears me up to this day. It's one of the most traumatizing things. My son calls me at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Dad, where are you?" "Mom, what's up? What do you want?" "Dad, where are you?" I'm like, "Well, I'm home. What do you need?" "Well, I'm going into work. What do you need?" He's like, "You promised that you were going to be a chaperone on a school trip today. We're all waiting for you. The buses are here." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm going into an operation. I'm not making it there." I was so
Right.
cold about it at the time. Like, dude, I don't care about your fourth grade. Listen, dude, I'm not making it there. You're going to have to go without me. And all those years later, it haunted me and haunted me and haunted me.
Mm.
But when I came, and it's almost like the addiction side, right? Like making amends. I had to make amends with my kids. And when I did, I carried this shit forever. And I carried it like guilt. And
Yeah.
I finally said to them recently, "Guys, I'm so sorry. We had all those years in the car." And they laughed. And like, "Dad, we talked about that forever. We still talk about it. That was some of the best times. We laughed about it." Like, so what you see as trauma and what you see as depression and what you see as guilt, sometimes we just carry it. We shouldn't be carrying it. You got to get
Right.
rid of it. And and that's what I want guys and girls to see, and not wait until they're painted into a corner or feeling suicidal or depressed, and they've now become dependent on a substance where their life isn't the same.
Right. No, definitely being proactive, getting ahead of it, understanding what it means to really make yourself a priority. So
Yeah.
we don't get to those places where people need to be checking in and
Right.
and spending time.
Yeah, and you're in a career, you're in a job that you're absorbing so much trauma, right? You're
Right.
absorbing other people's trauma along the way. It's dark. We work in a dark place, first responders, man. You're helping people get through the best and the worst times. And it's obviously we latch on to the worst times and we hang on to those events. Um, but again, we only knew your loved one for a moment in time, but that loved one passed alone with us in a room, and we represented all the family members in. And there's a
Yeah.
bond that's created there. But for us, we carry that forever, right?
Right.
you know but you don't have to carry it. There's a way you
No.
can process it and reframe it, and that's what you teach people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's a way that we can be there for each other to
absolutely.
help carry that, help take some of that burden.
Sure, without a doubt. Yeah. And
Hey,
again, I throughout the case and after the case, I didn't realize I sat around an angry elf, boy, for many many months, almost a couple of years. I sat around. Now what do I do? Long before I started working in the field I'm working at now.
right.
But after all these years now, I realize, yeah, that great career I had, I loved it. It was great. But I've recently started saying to people, what I do now is my true legacy.
Yeah, man.
Helping veterans, helping first responders, helping people get through the darkness that we lived in at one time,
Yep.
and letting, guiding them to the light.
Yeah. It's, there is a better way, man. There is a better
Sure.
way. Hey,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about Vegas?
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
Well, you're doing some stuff out there. You got,
Oh yeah, that's coming out soon. I can't talk
if you
about it yet.
can't, you can't. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. But I don't
No,
want
it's
to not
exciting.
talk about it if you can.
No, it's exciting. I've been filming out there for a while, and all I could say is it's a show, right? It's
Nice.
a
Okay.
podcast. I don't know. I don't even know.
All
I
right.
go out there.
You got something
Yeah.
going on. You got an iron in the fire. It's coming to
Yeah.
fruition in
Yeah,
the
it's
not too
really cool.
distant future. You'll let
It
me
is.
know and I'll make sure to
I'm excited. We're about 10 episodes in filmed,
okay.
and yeah, I can't wait. I don't know what I guess they're waiting for the right time to release it.
All right.
But
Good.
the guests and it's been amazing, amazing. And again, it's not about me. It's not about my co-host, but it's about, a little bit about our life,
Right.
but it's about people from the life, right?
Sure.
From the both sides of life, the good, the bad, the ugly. Little bit of pop culture in there. Some people that might have played some bad guys and good guys on TV. So it's some
Interesting.
interviews.
I'll be looking forward to it, man. It sounds like
me
it's going to
too.
be amazing.
God willing, I hope so.
Nah, you know it will be. That's the humility coming out in you, man. You know it's going to be awesome.
I think so. I think they're doing something special with it, and as long as it has a message and highlighting. I wanted to highlight guys that did the work that I did, or just first responders in general. The
Nice.
show, all the work that people do. Yeah.
Gee, before we wrap, man, I usually ask my guests, and we've covered a lot, man. It's not enough to have a cool story, man. It's about leaving this place better than we found it. And you've certainly helped pave the way with a lot of what we discussed today. Something to leave the guys and girls with, brother.
Law enforcement's an awesome career. Don't believe social media. Don't believe the hype. Our numbers are down right now. It's an amazing career. You could do so much. I never thought that I'd be pushing my own kids into this field, right? Not pushing them, but a couple of my kids want to do it.
Yeah.
And, my wife is like, no. But depending on the way you go into the career, it's a rewarding career. We make it sound like doom and gloom, but man, we can sit here all day and talk about the great parts of this job.
Yeah.
The laughs, the fun, the craziness, the things that we did, the amazing times, right? A lot of these, the mental health aspect, yes, we focus on the darkness of the job.
Right.
We focus on the toll it takes on us. But this job has provided me memories that I can never, ever, ever recreate or even begin to experience. Good. Sure. I mean, it's some of the best times of my life. I could sit here for days and tell stories on that.
Yeah, man.
The good stuff far outweighs the bad stuff. So I would say, I would inspire these young guys and girls. We need the numbers. We need good people before they just start letting all these dreads of society in and all these
Yeah,
ones that are
before
slipping crap.
before they destroy this thing trying to get positions filled, we need some people with a moral compass and some character to
And
step
for
up.
those that are just listening to your show for entertainment purposes, please take a minute, talk to a first responder, understand what they're going through, and understand what they lay on the line for these folks. Just don't jump on the bandwagon of hate. Don't be a hater, as they say back in the day.
There's a real person behind that badge.
There is, and not everybody carries a badge. You look at these 911 dispatchers.
Yeah, man.
They're often forgot. So many times they're forgotten, and the trauma that they go through. So I would listen. If you're not happy about it, get involved. You want to sit here and chant defund, defund. Listen, redefine whatever you want to, whatever catchphrase you want to use. Get involved. If you're a professional, get involved. Throw your support behind them. Bring some change. Show up at your town council meetings, and be the change.
Be part of the solution.
Right. Exactly. So that's off the top of my head. That's what I would say.
That's awesome off the top of your head. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the book is Giovanni's Ring, My Life Inside the Real Sopranos, and we have been blessed to be sitting down with Giovanni Rocco. Brother, man, you being a big shot and all, can I tell you, I never thought this was going to take place. I would have lost the bet apparently, because no, man, you I value your friendship. I value your time. Thank you for making time for me. And I know I'm going to be seeing you in the not too distant future, because that's just the way this thing of ours works.
Yeah, and it goes both ways, John. You know that. From the minute we met, I forget where it was, a year ago, whatever, but when we met, there was an instant bond, right? And we're good at reading people. We're both the same way. This area is saturated with people that just want to be validated and be heard. You're doing some great work. And now being on your podcast, listening to some of the ones you have done in prior, you're doing some amazing work, brother.
Thanks,
I really appreciate what you're doing. I noticed that I called you brother and not, boss.
I was waiting. I was figuring I'd squeeze one out of you, man.
No, and it's, I truly mean it. What you're doing is making a difference. And I think it's the validity that you bring. And I appreciate it. All the families do, and everybody listening, because I know people are going to hear every episode that you put out, and you're going to touch somebody's life and make a difference.
Yeah, man. That's the goal, right? That's the goal, man.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen,
you're not making money doing it.
Oh shit! No, listen. If you want to sponsor the show, oh my God, you're too funny, brother. Giovanni Rocco, brother. Merry Christmas to you and yours, man. And we look forward to seeing you again real soon, man.
Same to you, John. Thanks, buddy.
And that is